What's up everyone? Lee Skinner here with Physio Remedy at Iron Ground Gym. Today I'm going to be going over hip stability, and I really want to speak to all the squatters out there because I see a lot of powerlifters that are squatting with hip pain, and they've been doing mobility drills for a long time. And if you check their range of motion, and if you guys check your range of motion, which you can easily figure out online to look up what are norms for hip range of motion, you'll find your hip range of motion is not abnormal. If that's the case and you're doing mobility drills and you are trying to work on more and more range of motion and you're finding that it gives you a little bit of pain reduction while you do it, but you still get back to your lift and you're still squatting with pain in your hips and it's not really going anywhere, mobility may not be your issue. So I want to talk about hip stability today, and this is a really common thing I see. There's a little bit more what we call frontal plane motion during your squat. Now frontal plane motion is when the knee comes in like this. Okay, and if you're seeing that from your bottom to your top phase of your squat, you're seeing excessive knee motion in this plane of movement, especially if it's on one side more than the other, and that happens to be the side that your hip is hurting, I think now you have a better answer for what may be going on, and I want to go over hip stabilization drills to try to drive that point home so that we can stop stretching out the hip and thinking that's the answer. We can work on stabilizing the hip. So I'm going to give you a couple tests I want you to go through. And then this gives you the tools to analyze one leg versus the other and see if there's a difference. And then I'll give you a couple things you can do to help work on it to try to improve your hip stability so that your squat, not only can you get more weight out of your squat, which you should be able to do if you gain stability, but also start to reduce some of that pain that you're feeling in your hip. Guys, in order to understand stabilization training, the first thing we have to get is we have to understand motor control. Now that is it's a regulation of movement, okay, and it is a skill, okay. Motor control is how well you are able to fire a group of muscles or a certain muscle, how well your nervous system can do that, and it is a skill, and you have to think of it that way, and you have to train it that way. So if I'm talking about knee stability, and I'm standing on one leg, bending my knee, and my knee's all over the place, that's not stability, okay, and that's something that we're going to try to train. We're going to gain the ability to stabilize that knee in that position to where we don't have all this excess motion. In order to train motor control, you have to make sure you start at the right place, meaning start at your skill level, okay? You can squat 500 pounds and have terrible motor control in each leg. I see it all the time. So don't think that just because you have a lot of weight on your back, you have good control of your hips. So what I would suggest doing is we're going to go through a couple tests here. We'll do a single leg bridge and a single leg squat. Now a single leg bridge test is already out there. I've modified it a little bit. Using a bar that you can kind of help assess your pelvis level. I know how much lifters love these big bars anyway, so it gives them the tool that they like while they're doing a test. And we'll do a single leg squat test too. And we'll basically determine, okay, what's the skill level? And if you aren't able to fire the gluteal muscles, and you can't say, look, I can get into these positions, I can feel my glute muscles firing, then we're gonna have to take it down a level. And this brings up an interesting topic for debate because typically in rehab what we will do is we will choose exercises that have high EMG activity or high electrical activity of that muscle because we know that we can maximize how many motor units of that muscle fire, then we can build motor control off of that. That's a good foundation. But there are a lot of people that have been doing clamshells and gluteal squeezes for a long time because a gluteal squeeze, if you just squeeze your butt, has a high level of activation and they think they're getting their butt stronger. I'm sorry, it's not happening that way. You have to get your exercises beyond, laying down and doing a leg raise and a little clamshell. Those are good exercises to start with to gain that pattern, that motor control, the ability to fire that muscle. But you've got to get past that. A gluteal squeeze sitting at your desk during your day isn't a bad idea, but it sure as heck is not going to get your gluteal activation better during your squat. And if we treat motor control as a skill, we have to practice that skill along with whatever we're trying to do. And that's just the law of specificity, guys. That says if we want to get better at something, we have to train that specific thing. I haven't met a powerlifter yet or a bodybuilder that thinks that if I do a heavy leg press, it will automatically mean my squat will go way up. That's just not how it works, right? We can do accessory training to try to facilitate different patterns along with a squat, but nobody thinks their squat's going to get better unless they do the squat. So why the heck do they think that laying on the side doing a clamshell is all of a sudden going to translate into this complex skill that is a squat? I don't know, but it's not right, and we're going to train it a little bit better than that, okay? So the first test is a single leg squat. The purpose here is to see how well I can control my knee and keep it from wobbling around while I'm squatting up and down. This is going to test your hip rotator muscles. This is going to test your gluteal muscles. And it's a good exercise and a good test for what I call the gluteal complex, which is just maximus, medius, and minimus. It's all three gluteal muscles. Okay, those aren't the only muscles that this will target. There are a number of hip rotator muscles that it will target, like piriformis, obturator, internus, externus, a bunch of muscles we don't ever really talk about, but are very important during a lift. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to stand on one leg. You're going to put one leg out in front of you. Okay, we're not going to go behind us. And I see a lot of people doing single leg squats with the leg back like this. The reason I don't like this is because if you draw this thigh back, you're going to pull on that hip flexor. Okay. That is going to tilt your pelvis forward, it's going to arch your back, and it's going to give you this, almost like this rubber band mechanism to hinge off of, okay? You're going to create tension in these group of muscles that will now allow you to kind of bounce back up off of it. And I think if you do this test, you'll see, if I bring the leg back behind me, and I watch my pelvis in the mirror, now I'm leaning a little bit, and I'm arching, and I'm rotating, and I'm basically creating this tension that it gives me a little bit of a cheat mechanism. Okay, I call that the rubber band syndrome. That's a cheat tool. So what I want you to do is I want you to bring the leg out in front of you and compare it. Go down to about 45, 50 degrees in the front, and then do the same thing in the back, and you tell me which one you think is easier. So we're going to go leg out in front of us, okay? Now, the first thing I do is I have a lot of people do this without a shirt on so they can actually see the two bony parts of their pelvis. It's called your ASIS, anterior superior iliac spine. A lot of people will do this without a shirt and a mirror. I'm not ready to go shirtless in my videos yet, I'm sorry. But, so watch your pelvis here, arms out in front of you. And this is going to see if you're level. Because if you start squatting down and this knee comes in, or you start to lean like this, I want you to be able to see that in the mirror. And this is a good place to do this, is in a mirror, okay? So, foot on the ground, leg out in front of you, hands up, squat down to the height of a bench, and right back up. You're looking to see if you can control this movement, if you're leaning to the side, if you're rotating a little bit, if your knee's dropping in, if your pelvis is dropping like this. These are all signs that you don't have good stability, don't have good hip control, okay? So watch yourself in the mirror, check the knee position, make sure it's not dropping in, check the pelvis position, make sure it's not dropping this way, and check for rotation and for side bending. Those are all the cues that you don't have the control that you thought you did. So the next one is the single leg bridge test, okay? And again, I want to teach you how to keep an eye on the hips and the pelvis to make sure that when you're doing this test, you know what you're looking for so that you know whenever you've lost sort of that break in stability that we're trying to assess here, okay? So what I want you to do is I want to put your shoulder blades on a bench, okay? You'll fall right off, okay? Just like this. Shoulder blades on the bench. Start off with your knees at about 90 degrees and then slowly walk them out to about 135 degrees, 120, 135. Why? There was a study that showed that there was higher gluteal activation with the knee angle at about 135 versus 90 degrees. You get to use your quads a little bit more. It's a little easier. If you guys ever do bridges, doing them at 90 degrees versus 135, a little bit more difficult. So about 120, 135 degrees in the knee. I want you to raise one leg up just like this. Now, the big check that you have to make here is put your fists right on those bony parts of your pelvis, the ASIS that we referenced earlier, and put your thumbs up. This will give you a little measurement tool, okay? With both your feet on the ground, you should be level, right? If you lift one leg, I'm going to lift my right leg, and the right side of my pelvis drops, there I go. There's the loss in stability. So try to maintain that stability, okay? Thumbs here, lift the leg, bridge down, and come up. I want you to keep your thighs level the whole time. You do not get to drop this thigh way in the air and bring it down during this motion, okay? So, hands here, thumbs here, raise the leg, come down, come up, okay? That's one of your visual tools to see if you've lost the pelvis position. You're looking for the knee to drop in, you're looking for the pelvis to drop when you raise that leg. Okay? The other one, and it's almost worth videotaping, I think. If you do a side angle and you look at the bridge from the side, you want to make sure that you're not arching your back. And that's a big deal, okay? So I'll just walk my feet off the edge of this bench this way, and I'll try to give you a different angle.
I want you to watch my back here, okay, the small of my back. If I'm going to cheat, I'm going to overuse my back. I don't know how many times I hear people telling me my back hurts when I do bridges. Well, this is the why, okay? What they're doing is they're trying not to use their butt, they're trying to use their paraspinals to take over the spine muscles. What they're going to do that is they're going to arch their back, and then when they bridge down and up, their back is arched. They'll arch, they'll come at it. Arch, come at it. The first thing you want to do is you want to take your pelvis and you want to tuck it under you. Okay, so all the people out there that are trying to stick the butt out to make it look like they have a bigger butt, just do the opposite. And don't worry, no one's watching, just do it during this test, okay? So I want you to tuck the pelvis under you. Okay, that's step one. That'll engage your abs. Hold your abs tight, then do your bridge test this way. And watch to see, okay, if I'm doing it right, this should stay steady, stable the whole time, rather than arch and up versus down and up. Now, this is a variety for all the tough guys and gals out there. And again, I told you I was going to use a bar. I made you a promise, so I'm going to deliver. This is the same single leg bridge test, but now we're going to make it a little harder. We've got a little weight on us now. Oh, and by the way, to all the people that are throwing 3 plates on the bar here and doing a bridge, I'd really encourage that you check your low back to see you're probably not using your glutes the way you think you are. So try the test without 3 plates on each side. Please stop adding 3 to 4 to 5 plates on this and thinking that you're doing a good gluteal exercise. I haven't seen one person do it correct yet, so no offense, but so what I'll do is I'm going to walk off here, okay? Shoulder blades on the bench. Now, what you'll notice when you have this bar here is that as soon as you bridge up, okay, and start to come down, you'll see the bar will rotate just a little bit this way, a little bit this way. I haven't seen you be able to do it without some degree of rotation. That's not my concern as much as, again, a drop like this. So, tuck the butt under you, engage the abs, raise the leg, slowly come down, slowly come up. Look to see if it's level, okay? If, again, you're dropping or this is all over the place, then you've got a cue that your stability needs to be trained a little bit better. Okay, so there's the tough guy gal version of the single leg bridge test. So a quick recap, because this is kind of a complex test, is when you're doing the bridge, okay, first steps, contract the abdominals. That's tucking the butt under you. Put your hands on your pelvis, get your measurement tool. When you bridge up on one leg, watch to see if you drop. Try to keep the thigh level as you bridge down and up. Your big cues that you're going the wrong direction or that you don't have good stabilization is the pelvis drops, the knee comes in, or you're arching your back during the bridge test. So guys, those are the 2 tests, single leg bridge, single leg squat. Those are also 2 excellent training tools, okay? And again, if we go back to how we typically train hip stability, if we do it in what's called an open chain position, meaning that the foot's not planted against the ground, some of the common exercises are, I think one of them that's supported by the EMG literature is a front plank with a hip extension. So you're in a plank position on the ground, you're extending the hip back behind you, firing the glute. Another one, again, we talked about it earlier, is just the glute squeeze. So literally just squeezing the glutes has high EMG activation. But again, I don't think these are excellent training tools. I think they're good supplements to a training tool. So what I would say is if you can do a good glute squeeze, that'll be sort of your test during your exercise to see, okay, if I stand on one leg, I do something higher level, something that's more applicable to a squat or a deadlift. I know we're focusing on squat today, but deadlift's the same. As far as being able to fire the gluteal muscles, you should be able to do that during a deadlift. And you should feel yourself being able to do that. So if I come down to this squat position, I should be able to clench my buttocks and feel the glute contracting. And I have a lot of people that say they come down and from here to here, there's like this range where they just can't seem to fire the glute. That's the range that you need to train, okay? So if I go down, let's say this far, and all I feel is my quad, I feel nothing in my glute, but I can go down up a little bit higher and I can contract the glute muscle. That's the range that you'll train in. And a little trick that I have people use is I'll have them fatigue the glute muscle, then do some motor control training. And why? If you get the fatigue of this muscle being, you get this fatigue sensation, the muscle's really tired, you can kind of feel it in that area, and then I'll use that fatigue mechanism to train a lower level exercise, and so that they can kind of get that carryover, that sensation of, okay, my glute's really tired, I just fatigued it, and I can feel it there, and now I can kind of hold on to that sensation during my training, and it gives them a little bit of a carryover effect, okay? And it's the same thing when we do like a warm-up. If you're doing like a single leg squat for a warm-up, just to get that pattern in your brain, I can feel the muscle contract, I can feel the muscle contract. Then you go do your lift, there's some evidence to suggest that you'd get a little bit of a carryover effect, although carryover is fairly small from what we're seeing. But I think it's a good tool to use. And as far as what kind of contraction should you use, I would say lean towards some isometrics to do warm-ups and isometrics during some of your training if you're trying to maximize motor unit recruitment. That contraction has been shown to have the highest degree of motor unit recruitment. And unfortunately, eccentrics, which is a common training tool with tendinopathy, that has the lowest level of motor control associated with it because you're relying on passive tension from the muscle. You can get a higher force production out of the muscle because of that passive tension, but you're not going to have the same degree of muscle or motor control during the exercise. So I would start off with isometrics and then move towards slow resistance, heavy slow resistance. That would be my approach to this. So single leg bridge is a good tool, single leg squat's a good tool, but make sure you're not just doing reps to do reps, okay? I see a lot of people doing pistol squats, but if you slow them down and have them pause throughout the range, they have no control. So don't confuse a bouncing mechanism with muscle control. And when I throw a weight out here, a lot of you guys know it's a little easier actually to do that pistol squat with the weight out here than it is if you were to take the weight away. So what I want to encourage you to do is slow the movement down, make sure you can actually feel the glute firing the whole time you're doing these squats. And if you can't, then use some of your lower level exercises. Like if you're working gluteus medius and minimus, I would say do the clamshell, you can try that. You can do the plank with the hip extension, you can do the gluteal squeezes throughout your exercises. But again, don't find yourself going through the motions. Guys, that's what I see a lot of people doing. They look up an exercise online, okay, that's a clamshell. So then they lay down and they're just sort of rocking this out. It's really quick. I see it all the time with gluteal exercises, rotator cuff exercises, just slingshotting this band around, and there's very little control. Don't waste your time with a warm-up or training like that. Be purposeful with your training. Fire the glute muscle, make sure you can feel it with all the exercises you're doing. And then one last tip before I let you go is please do not pay somebody to activate your muscles for you and charge you per muscle group activated. I think this is a good example of poor healthcare and wasted cost. If you want to try to do this yourself, I would really encourage you to look up the EMG studies. Find the ones that have high levels of gluteus maximus or gluteus medius activation. Try them yourselves. Get the sensation of that glute squeeze in your brain. You can do it by fatiguing it. You can do it by doing isometrics. Use those training tools yourself so that you don't find yourself paying hundreds of dollars to activate each muscle group. I just think that's poor use of healthcare. So try that out, guys. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to send a message or make a comment on the YouTube channel. I really appreciate you spending time with me.